Is it possible that you could have remote viewed an alternate universe and come up with that answer?
I don't know.
Okay.
It's the only time I've ever run into it in my career, and it's very nonplussing because I like things to be simple and elegant, but it was there, so I have to accept it. So I don't know the answer to that question. We just haven't run into it other than that.
Okay, and Ed, I have one quick off-topic question. Have you remote viewed the cause of autism?
Gee, I have been asked to do that a lot of times, and I mean a lot of times, by people. And I haven't done it. I have not done that.
Okay.
Yeah, even by experts in the field. I've done a lot of medical stuff. Some of my students have been the world's leading doctors. I trained the world's leading orthopedic surgeons, the world's leading ear doctor who literally wrote the textbook used in medical schools in ear surgery. And some of the physicians that deal with autism actually asked me to remote view this, but it's just a matter of there's not enough time to do everything. Now, one of the beauties, one of the shining stars of remote viewing is saving lives. There's an example of this in my book, one chapter where I helped a physician friend of mine who had a dying patient in their hand and didn't know what was going on with him. So when you save a life, you tell a doctor, hey, this is what's wrong in terms of a diagnosis. It's a good feeling.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ed.
Hi, Ed. Five Cook here. I was intrigued a little while ago. You mentioned transpersonal reality, which is one of my points of interest. What do your remote viewing experiences tell you about the ultimate nature of reality, if there is such an animal?
Oh, I wouldn't even pretend to have the arrogance to think I could comprehend ultimate reality. I mean, really, I think our little reptilian brain, bicameral brain, couldn't comprehend ultimate reality. I just don't think we have the hardware to do that, much less the software. So I won't go there. But I've seen things that just fascinating things where remote view two people talking to each other, not talking, but communicating with each other at 10 years before they even meet, those kind of things. So it's crosstalk through time. The way we existed, we exist at different levels, as I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir in your case. But for me, this was extremely disturbing. It was one thing to wonder how my unconscious, which is the higher mind, I have a huge ego, but my egoic mind can't solve these problems that we attack using remote viewing. And for me to run up against my unconscious, my supermind, non-egoic mind was very damaging to my ego, very threatening to my ego. So I had to learn how to live with that there's a part of me that knows better than the egoic me, and then to discover this other part that transcends what our world, our reality, where we seem to be living somewhere on another level. This is very, very intensely interesting. It seems to be at another place outside of time and space, and I can't explain it other than that. But I believe that it exists. I just can't get my teeth into it. But I've seen examples, using myself as one example, where there seems to be another existence connected with me, but outside of time and space.
It must have been an incredible culture chasm for you working in the armed services, and I would think that they're pretty much nuts and bolts kind of guys, and then to be dabbling in both these worlds.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I got out, formed the company, because actually the key reason was I wanted to study the UFO phenomenon. There's no license or venue within the Department of Defense to study UFOs. I don't want to go into all the background, but it isn't there, and I was intensely interested in it, and started using the military team to attack that problem, but I got my hands slapped eventually, and I said, this is pretty fascinating. I want to study it more, and have been for 20 years.
Oh yeah, you were probably going somewhere they didn't want you to.
No, I was scaring
exactly.
them. I was scaring them. Yeah. The best example is when we briefed the head of the Presidential Foreign Intelligence Board, who was a Nobel laureate, old staid Stoic physicist. And he was briefed on the existence of our unit, which at any given time only 100 people could be briefed. It was top secret. He goes, his face turns ashen, his lips are purple and trembling. He's pointing to the briefing officer's book, Colonel Yakin, and says, I quote, "Man should not know this until he dies." Unquote. So what do you say to somebody like that? He said, "Well, sir, if you've got nothing else for me, I'll be on my way." And salute and turn around and go.
Yes, I can believe that.
Because you're scared. Everything that this person had a great box, a perfect box like we all do. Even language puts us into a box. Our words do, the way we use them. But this box was perfect. This is how the world works. This is how physics works. And we just suggested to him that, it doesn't. On the contrary, when Edward Teller, the father of the X-ray laser and the nuclear bomb, was briefed on this, he closes his eyes, rolls his head back in the chair, and doesn't move for 5 minutes. Opens his eyes back up and says, "Yes, it could be. It could be." It's a very, very different reaction.
Well, there's a real scientist, someone with an open mind. So, big difference.
I wish he didn't use it to create the H-bomb, though.
Well, yes, anything can be misused, I suppose.
Yeah, I think so.
Another subject, I have a question from a foreign member of Futurama, and I'll just read this. The webbots have been picking up something very similar to your discontinuity, the wall, that is referred to in our webbot parlance as the data gap. Cliff High has observed an enormous drop-off in psychic bleed-through that he labeled as the data gap, which seems to be showing up in the data runs, manifesting early in 2013. Does the data gap, which the webbots have been consistently seeing over a span of many years, seem to you to be describing the same phenomenon that you have been picking up on and that you have called the discontinuity or the wall? And do you have any clearer idea as to what this discontinuity, the wall, is, and when? When does it show up?
I have no comparison between our work and the webbots' conclusions, analytical conclusions from the webbots, so I can't comment on that. No, I don't have any more information on this discontinuity. I have some guesses. But they're only guesses because I think we're dealing with something that is esoteric in nature, and I can't get my teeth into it. I don't think there's any common denominator, anything in my thesaurus, my lexicon, my memory, to grasp what is going on at that point, which is one of the limitations that we have as remote viewers. It's similar to teaching children. If you ask a child to remote view, let's say, not even a child. Suppose I teach you remote viewing, and I give you a blind target. You don't know what the target is, a training target. It happens to be a performance of the Bolshoi Ballet at a particular time, let's say in Prague at last night, and that's your target, that event. But you've never in your life experienced the color red, even though the color red exists as a pattern of information, and you are connected with that when you tune yourself into it. If you've never experienced it, there's no way for you to objectify it, because as you look at in a tachygraphic sense, you're remote viewing the pattern of red of the curtains, but there's no data match for it. There's no match in your memory for anything like red because you've never experienced that color before. So the next best thing you could say, well, there's a curtain here and its color is light pink or light chartreuse or whatever color it is that you can best describe. Well, you think about the limitations we have experientially in terms of objectifying remote viewing information, just using a bicameral brain. But think of the problems we run into trying to grasp things like afterlife, the soul, God, those kinds of things. Even some of the technologies, to use that term loosely, that we've experienced on other planets. You can't do everything. Remember, this tool was created to gather as much technical intelligence information as quickly as possible, period. That's what the tool was used and developed for. It's evolved a little bit beyond that, and it's much better in its use, but that's still what we do.
Okay, yes, and it does a very good job for what it was designed to do. Another question from Futurama refers to soul harvesters. I guess that's a reference to an alien spacefarer group that comes down to Earth and sucks up most or all of the souls from Earth to take them off somewhere else. Are you familiar at all with that concept?
I've never heard the term used out there, but I'm familiar with it in terms of what happened on Mars. There was a civilization on Mars a long time ago, and Mars underwent extreme violent climate changes. It essentially lost its atmosphere. And when that happened, the remnants of the civilization were somehow, it's spooky stuff, but there were silver vessels that came in to the neighborhood of Mars where these people were dying, holed up, and they were somehow, their vital essence was sucked out of them and jarred up. So I take it for what it's worth.
Okay.
I don't know what they were reinstalled in, although we've seen some funny things having to do with the Mayans. The Mayan blood types are very interesting. We think there was an experiment with the early Mayans at one point, but all that stuff gets obscured, if not obtuse.
Okay, thank you, Ed. That's I could spend hours talking to you, but let me throw it over to Green Meadow. She has some questions for you.
I'd like to go back to 2012. Do you have any explanation for the discontinuity around 2012? Has this remained stable, or has it changed in character over time?
No, I didn't peg the discontinuity, that term that we use, in lack of a better term, to 2012. I never pegged that or connected those two.
So what is the discontinuity?
For us, it's a huge global thing that affects everybody on Earth, and it appears to be esoteric in nature. In other words, it doesn't involve necessarily any energy that we're aware of, but it's also a block beyond which remote viewers can't obtain any information, or around which we cannot. So that's all I can say about it. It's beyond. Some things are unfathomable. The human mind is pretty puny, and mine is, at least. My ego's gone after doing this for 25 years. I can't get my arms around that whatever that is.
Is there any time frame for it?
Nope. Future, that's all. 2050 is our guess, something like that.
That's when it ends?
We don't know.
Oh, okay.
We don't know. We just know there's a point we ran up against this wall where we can't extract any more information. And that's all I can say.
Is there a temporal marker before it?
No. If you think of the idea of and it's just an idea of the rapture, the Christian idea of rapture. Rapture is not a term that's used in the Bible, but lots of Christians use it. That kind of idea, that's as close as I could get to what we're calling the discontinuity. It's just a good analogy, that's all.
Cliff has been talking about unknown energies from space impacting people, the planet, everything. Could it have any relation to that?
I don't know.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
We're talking with Major Ed Dames from LearnRV.com. His last book was Tell Me What You See. That's Ed Dames from LearnRV.com. Ed, because